There's a format the automakers are following right now. Create a vehicle that customers will buy, then resize it up and down to fit the various spaces and needs of the other customers. That's how we get vehicle lineups filled with same-shaped, different-sized crossovers, and that's how we get a vehicle like the 2022 Volkswagen Taos. You can immediately tell this is a Volkswagen product with a quick glance at the exterior. It looks like a shrunken down Atlas. Base S models get black roof rails and side mirrors and 17-inch alloy wheels, while the SE and SEL versions have silver rails and body-colored mirrors. The SE gets 18-inch wheels, while the front-wheel drive SEL gets black 18-inch wheels, and the SEL all-wheel drive jumps up to 19-inch hoops. On the nose, you'll find LED headlights, and on top spec models, you'll actually get a light treatment that's the same as the one found on the Atlas Cross Sport. Inside, the Taos is far more spacious than you might expect based on the exterior shape. Size-wise, it's the smallest Volkswagen crossover in the family, but in its segment, it packs a great amount of space. Standard features include push-button start, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and Volkswagen's digital cockpit display. On the base model, the digital instrument cluster appears on an 8-inch display, while SEL models jump to a 10.25-inch digital cockpit Pro setup, where you can fully configure it to show vehicle status, navigation, phone info, and more. As for power, the Taos has just one option. It's an updated version of Volkswagen's EA211 turbo 4-cylinder. This is a 1.5-liter mill making 158 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. Front-wheel drive is standard and backed up by an 8-speed automatic. The 4-motion all-wheel drive system is available and swaps the 8-speed for a 7-speed DSG dual clutch. Front-wheel drive models will see 31 miles per gallon in combined driving fuel economy, while the all-wheel drive version dips to 28 miles per gallon combined. So we've got some good news and bad news from behind the wheel. The good news is once you're up and rolling, things are fine. The seats are comfortable, forward visibility is good, and the steering feel is light, which the average driver will appreciate. The bad news happens pretty much every time you come to a stop and have to start going again, because whatever is going on with the engine and gearbox tuning isn't adding up for me at all. It's almost like an on-off switch with respect to the turbocharger tuning. It's hard to describe it. It's when you leave the line initially, there's no boost pressure, there's turbo lag, and then it comes on like a rocket, which is odd for a 1.5-liter engine. So there's nothing, and then you're spinning tires through the corner. It's so weird. I've been curious if it's related to the front-wheel drive model and the 8-speed gearbox, and I talked to my colleagues at Kelley Blue Book. Mike Amusio said he had the same issue in the 7-speed all-wheel drive one, but to a different degree where it was nothing, and then it built up eventually, which makes sense that it wouldn't come on as strong because you're feeding multiple wheels and a different gearbox and more weight at that point. So it makes sense that it wouldn't be as much of a punch as it is in the front-wheel drive model. I'm sure if you owned it and drove it for a while, you would learn how to modulate the throttle properly, but it shouldn't even be an issue. It's so weird. And the rest of the car is fine. This actually has decent sized brakes for a vehicle like this. It drives fine once you're out and going, but if you floor it. So right there it's fine because we're already underway, the turbocharger is doing what it needs to do, and you get up and you go. It even feels kind of sprightly for the amount of power we have. Literally, every time you come to a stop, it's lag, then boost. It's not like progressive or linear. It's neither one of those. It's not either, because I would take either one because I could control that better. It's literally off and then on. And that does not make for a good driving experience. And it's a shame because the cabin tech in this price point is really nice. The comfort level is totally there. The design features going on are great. But it's hard for me to say you should definitely get one of these when the engine tuning and all that is doing what it does. Now let's talk about the differences between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive though, because the front-wheel drive version, though it rides fine, your backseat passengers might prefer the all-wheel drive version because the front-wheel drive version has a torsion-beam rear and the all-wheel drive version actually gets a multi-link setup. The front-wheel drive one does have a sport mode, which is just transmission mapping, I believe. The all-wheel drive one does get different drive modes, normal, sport, and individual, which does affect steering, throttle, and transmission response. So there are differences between the two models. The base price is $24,190 for the S and climbs to start at $32,685 for the SEL. If you check nearly every single option on the Volkswagen Build Your Own page, you have to work hard just to get this to $38K. So a properly spec'd version should land safely in the mid $30,000 range. And it's very easy to keep it even closer or under $30K if you want. With Volkswagen saying goodbye to the Golf for North America coming up, the Taos represents your best chance to get a similar driving proposition as that standard Golf, without having to dish out all the dough for an up-spec'd GTI or any Golf R. I'd prefer to still see the Golf in the lineup, but the Taos might make a lot of sense to a lot of car shoppers right now. And it's hard to find bad things to say about any new car in the mid to low $30,000 range with all of these great features. The Taos is a smart proposition at the moment. So, hold up a minute. I know I just said this is good value for the money, and I still believe that, but I've taken a day to reflect on some of the other stuff I've said about the Volkswagen Taos, and I'd be remiss if I didn't offer up some competition that might offer a better overall experience than this, especially because a vehicle like the Mazda CX-30 exists, the Kia Seltos exists, and they're all playing in the same place financially, but they don't have the engine issues this one has. So take a moment to consider what else is out there before you dive headlong into the Volkswagen Taos.